Alright, so we've looked at the obvious kind of ways of routing audio through the Minibay. DF Audio also point out that it can carry CV signals, which is an interesting idea how we can use that in, say, Eurorack. But I've not seen actually any much information or examples of that. And in their own literature, while they mention that almost in passing, they don't have any real setup examples that I've seen of how it can be used in this context. So I thought I'd experiment a bit with this, having had the Minibay a couple of years and used it primarily for audio patching, which is, I think, the main way it's intended to be used. And first thing is, yeah, it definitely carries CV signals in and out, no problem. The issue we've got is in the patching, in the fact that on the surface it looks very Eurorack friendly, right? It's got the kind of mini sockets for mini jacks, the 1/8" size, all mono. I mean, they come in pairs, they come in pairs, but they're all broken out into separate mono connections. So you think, yeah, great, that could be useful. But then, of course, the main connectors on the back come in via the 1/4" jacks, the TRS. 2 mono via a Y cable or a single stereo broken out on the top into separate channels that you can, patch any way you like. But the issue, obviously, for Eurorack is that this isn't a very Eurorack-friendly jack format, shall we say. So to get into the Y cable adapters, what I've done here to get the Eurorack signals into the back is I've gone Eurorack patch cable into a headphone style adapter into one side of the Y adapter. So they go in as pairs like that. Each connection goes into one of the side of those, into the connectors sockets at the back, and then they're broken out into the various patch bay sockets on the main patch panel. Once you're here, it's obviously great being able to use your Eurorack cables to patch away, but there's a bit of head scratching and a bit of setup which you might not want to constantly be chopping and changing to get the main connections, the normal ones, if you like, the default ones, set up first. So you've got to put some thought into that. As an example, up here I've got the PAMS Pro Workout. It's a very popular sort of utility sequencing module, and you can see it has 8 outputs. So straight away I could see I've just for this example, I'm just running 2 of these as CV sources into the first connector. So they're coming in on A1 and A2. You can see I've written here PAM. I've written 1 and 4, but that should read 1 and outputs 1 and 2. I've switched those around. And then row B is sending, again, the same setup with Y cables, then jack adapters, and then the patch cables. I am sending, let's see, a clock signal. So output 1 from PAMS is connected via the Minibay via a normal connection between A1 and B2, all done through the back there. Clock to the sequencer for the Tubbtech 6 Mod 6 drum machine. And then output 2 is going into the same dual cable adapter and coming out coming into A2, sorry, where it's normaled to B2, which is, and coming back to the Queen of Pentacles, which is another drum machine, 909 style, coming into the kick. When I hit play on PAMS, just turn up the monitor a bit, what you can see is those CV signals via the Minibay driving the sequence on the 606 with that clock, and driving the triggering, the kick as you can see there, which lights up on the Queen of Pentacles. And now if I take let's say the A2 signal, which is the second output from PAMS, the first thing you'll notice is it it's broken that normal connection. I could reconnect it, or I can take that somewhere completely different, anywhere on my rack. Or in this, just for simplicity, I'm going to put it into the snare on the Queen of Pentacles. And now you can see that we've just repatched it, obviously. Now, I can't tell you whether this would be a really useful workflow improvement for your setup. Depends how much, how many patching utilities you've already got. You know, there's a lot you can do in Eurorack just in terms of patching, splitting, multing, combining types of modules, even, you know, these kinds of things. But if you didn't have a lot of those utilities or didn't have space in your rack, then potentially you could set up a system, for instance, that takes, let's just say, you know, maybe all 8 clock or trigger outputs from something like PAMS, has them pretty much permanently patched in to the rear and available to you. You know, normaled maybe to, say, one particular module, like a drum machine that needs, you know, multiple triggers or whatever. You'd have those all set up and normaled via the back. So you go through that pain of setting it up, but then once it's done, sort of fit and forget. And then, of course, just like any patch bay, you have the easy access here to break and remake those connections any way you like. Just showing you how that's a potential benefit. And the other thing to mention here, of course, is one thing the mini bay has that normal patch bays don't have is a dedicated little summing area. And again, you could bring in CV signals and combine them here. Let's give that a go. Let's just break up our little party here. I'm gonna take out our normal jacks. I'm gonna bring, for the purposes of this, I'm gonna sum both our CV signals from PAMS. And then let's see what happens if we take the sum of those and put it back into that snare. There we go. So now we're getting the hits from both those outputs using a different mix of regular and Euclidean patterns, summing into there. Again, that's not like anything groundbreaking in terms of Eurorack. I mean, there are lots of ways of doing that with certain utility modules and everything else. But if you don't have them already and you have a mini bay, then already you're starting to see little different things it can do. A little bit of that, a little bit of kind of patch bay style routing. Once you've got it set up, easy to mix and match signals on the top here. And then there's one more thing that it's really useful here for. Let's just stop that crazy snare action. I've just hooked up 2 effects units. This is just going back to audio for now rather than CV signals. But in the context of Eurorack, I think this is a really handy thing, a really simple thing, an easy thing, and actually makes a lot of sense. It more plays to the strengths of the mini bays, like dual connections. What I mean is this: I got 2 pedals. One here, the Bug brand PT Delay, which is one of my favourite effects boxes, by the way, and over here, beautiful old Dodd envelope filter. Now, both these pedals, like most, you know, guitar pedals, etc., do use your standard 1/4" jacks for getting signal in and out. And also, you haven't got to worry about adapters and all that business. These are made for the mini bay because they can run as insert cables. So as the single stereo connection at the back brings in both the in and the out, if you like, or the send and return, I should say, of an effects pedal in a very neat way. No messing around with adapters and that. And then it presents the sends and returns for you to use here. And now why I like this is, it almost to me feels like the best use of the Minibay, although it's quite a limited and niche use, is that if you want to interface pedals, regular guitar pedals or whatever, with Eurorack, that often requires something like a dedicated unit like this, which do have the ALM SBG, and there's loads of others like that, giving you Eurorack to pedal in outs, etc. But I really like this solution because like using the SBG, I was having to use funky adapter setups to get in and out of these kinds of pedals. Whereas now I can run these pedals direct into the main connectors at the back. That's all normaled and set up. And then with my Eurorack, I can patch audio in and out without worrying about adapters, converters and other units into any of my audio sources. So let's just get a quick example of that going. I think both of these effects pedals are fired up and ready to go. So just to demonstrate the setup with effects pedals, I've just got that clock running into the TR606, sorry, 6 mod 6 again, and that bass drum being triggered as well off of Pam's, all normaled through the Minibay. And now what we're going to do is just move on from CV, pick up their audio signals. So I've got the mix from the 6 mod 6 going into FX1, which is the bug brand, and the return from the FX1, return from FX1, as in the bug brand return, returning the audio signal straight into the ADAT interface. And so lots of fun to be had there. We've got the Queen of Pentacles kick drum coming into FX2, which is where we have the Dodd patched in at the back. So that's what that does. Yeah, so there you have it. I'm sure there's a dozen other ways you could think of like using this, considering all the ins and outs, all the patching potential. But they're just some initial thoughts, I guess, on how this might be useful in the Eurorack setting, which is not something that seems to have been talked about very much. And like I said, if nothing else, it could sit here all day and be a great interface for patching things out of the Eurorack into the top here, just to run in and out of pedals really easily.